Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Podcast Strikes Back. My name is George and you're listening to our review for Wonder Woman. I'm joined here with Connor.
Hello.
And Benny.
Hello.
And guys, long time coming Wonder Woman. We've been waiting for it. What were you guys thinking about the state of affairs of DC going in, and how has this movie changed shit up?
So I've pretty much said from the get-go that this is I've kind of held that this is probably going to be the best thing that DC has done recently.
You
going into it.
that?
I did. If you look, you can go back through the podcast.
Okay.
This was always the one that I said I was not excited for Justice League. This is the one that I thought was actually going to be successful.
Fucking bold claim. Justice League looks shit.
Nah, but I maybe not you, but I'm certain that George was saying that this was going to be shit and Justice League looked good.
That is exactly what I said.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, having said that, I didn't expect too much before the early reviews came out of this film. Saying that it's the best of the DCEU isn't saying a lot.
Anyway, I'm a huge fucking DCEU nut. I've loved everything they've released so far. And I just couldn't.
Hey!
I don't think they've had a solid hit yet. Man of Steel, my opinion changes on day to day. I can't tell if I like it or hate it. Notice I said like or hate. BVS was a fucking train wreck, and Suicide Squad was again one of the biggest messes I've seen released in a motion picture theater in a long time. So low bar. I thought this looked pretty average in a lot of ways. I really wasn't sold on Gal Gadot after BVS. Everyone came out of that movie like, oh, she stole the movie. I'm like, well, it wasn't hard to fucking steal. Have you ever seen a fucking turd on the side of the road? You can just take it.
Yeah.
I liked this film, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the best DCEU film.
I think it's the best DCEU film as well. Going into the film, I was in exactly the same spot as you guys. Found all the films pretty disappointing, and I'm in the same kind of camp as Man of Steel. I don't think I do like it, but there's parts of it that I really want to like, but I just can't quite resolve it in my head. Anyway, Wonder Woman is something that I can definitively resolve because I absolutely love this film.
Wow.
I had such a great time in it. I thought Gal Gadot really sold the character. People are saying they gave her an easy run. It's basically a co-lead with Chris Pine. But Gal Gadot just blew it out of the park. And as you said, Connor, I really wasn't expecting much from this. I was not looking forward to it. And I thought Justice League was going to be the DCEU film of 2017 to pay attention to.
Wow.
And Wonder Woman has really impressed me.
I don't remember you expressing that opinion before, because that I find that shocking. I feel like I would have really taken you to task on it. Maybe I shut down whatever we talk about DC,
but that's in the context of what the DCEU, the expectation of the DCEU. I was expecting
totally.
something marginally better than Batman vs Superman.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure that's what you said, but we'll leave it at that. That's fine.
It's a solid way to give yourself the final word there. It's like, I'm not going to let you rebut me, but I think you're fine.
That's okay.
Cool.
Yeah, look, I'll agree with you. I liked Gal Gadot in this. For me, the standout, though, was Chris Pine. Largely because I just, he gets such a bad rap in general. And he just, for me, really shone in this. The scenes between him and Gal Gadot were probably the scenes that I most enjoyed in this film. Their interaction and their, I guess, chemistry.
And one thing that was so nice about this film was those moments, those character moments where just simple conversations were let to sit and actually take place. This film kind of takes a leaf out of films that maybe aren't necessarily action films or comic book films, but those little character moments got to actually play out. And I really like that. And it helped enhance everything that was going on screen in terms of action. And I think that was one of the biggest strengths of this film.
Here it comes.
It's a really interesting story with this movie, with the kind of reviews surrounding it, because it's currently on 94%, I think, on Rotten Tomatoes. Looks like it's going to sit right there.
93, yeah.
So yeah, that puts it right up there with The Dark Knight and Iron Man, kind of as one of the highest rated superhero movies out there. And I worry how people are going to kind of take their expectations into this movie, because no one really understands how Rotten Tomatoes works necessarily. This is, from what I can see, largely this movie has gotten 93% good reviews, not great reviews, which is where I'm at with it, because I think it was good stuff, but a pretty generic sort of superhero movie.
Really?
In a lot of ways, yeah.
I don't think so. I think it took a lot. I think there was a lot of things in here that it had a few different ingredients that gave it a little bit of a different flavor. I think the third act did get into very atypical territory, but I just felt like the fish out of water story was done really well. I think everything they wanted to do in this film was executed really, really well.
See, just like when they executed it well in Thor and Captain America: The First Avenger, which this is, and I'm definitely not the first person to point this out, but
it's a hybrid of those.
It is. They are smashed right together. It's like exactly that, and I can't wait to get to spoilers just to really outline some of the direct connection.
I would put it on par, because I remember watching it and thinking there's some striking similarities between this and the first Captain America film. I would probably put it on par with those films in terms of quality.
I'm going to say this is a little bit better.
But see, I think people think it's better because they're comparing it to the rest of the DCEU. And in those kind of terms, this is amazing. Like, this is just so far and beyond. But in terms of an actual, just a movie onto itself, it's good, but it's not great. And people have been heralding it as like, the greatest superhero film of the last 10 years, which I don't think it is.
It's not the greatest. It's one of the best, though.
Clickbaity headlines have been saying that. They've been like, oh, it's the best movie since The Dark Knight, just based on this review score. The reviews themselves have been saying, yes, it's good.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the best superhero films in this decade.
Yeah, look, there's a couple things about this film that it stops it from being great. Like, there's just... And we can start to kind of go into those, but in terms of like the story itself, it's not original enough, or it's not unique enough to really sell it on the story alone.
It doesn't have to be unique. It doesn't.
But you're right.
It has to be interesting. And you know what this film did is, I didn't give a shit about Wonder Woman. I didn't know anything about her. Even after seeing Batman vs Superman, I don't know anything about Wonder Woman. I came out of this film and I got the Wonder Woman character. I understood her. And I fell in love with that character.
But that's the bare minimum a film has to do.
I'm primed for this going forward.
That's the thing here. That's what this is. This is a Marvel Phase 1 film. This is by far the most Marvel-esque that the DCU has gotten, which is going to be interesting to see how the DC fanboys react to that, because I feel like a lot of people, these weird diehard people who love BVS and Suicide Squad, some reason, I think they genuinely love them. I'd be interested to see how they react to this, because all the criticisms they level at the Marvel films are right in here, big time. But in the same way it has those, this is a Marvel Phase 1 film, because what they have done here is crafted this character brilliantly. And this is, when I came out of this movie, this is the first time I've been like, wow, I actually want to see Justice League now, because it has a character in it that I care about.
And I even think Batman vs Superman might be enhanced after seeing this film. Because I'll actually see Gal Gadot and actually be like, yes, okay.
When you see her in it, you're like, there's Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
It's like, in a lesser Marvel film, when someone else shows up and you're like, hey, sick.
Exactly.
I'm kind of engaged now. But I can't harp on about that enough. Gal Gadot is fantastic in this fucking film. Just owns it. I'm a huge DC Comics guy. That's my jam. I love Superman. I love Captain Marvel, who is Captain Marvel, not Shazam. And this is the first time I've seen maybe any DC movie and just looked at one of my fucking heroes up on screen in real life, and it was like an emotional experience. It was really cool.
I think this is the first DC film where you felt like a connection with that character. I think before they've always had a veneer, like that Zack Snyder shininess that you're not able to quite connect with them. In this one, I was able to connect with Wonder Woman and the character.
Yeah, and she is a fucking hero. She's not none of this grim and gritty bullshit. She is inspirational.
Yeah.
And I think that's what is where the the many misgivings of this film are getting forgived, and I forgive them as well. But I can't wait to get into them as well.
And I liked how this was a bit of a. First of all, I think they set up the world so much better than they have previously. And this one, straight off the bat, they're in like a mystical island. We're introducing gods, but even though that we're kind of talking about these epic proportions and kind of universal ideas, it still feels more contained than any of the other DCEU films.
Feels personal, yeah.
So, and I loved how the first 10, 20 minutes on this island, it was colorful. Seeing a DC film with color is amazing. It's such a cool, like, refreshing experience.
Yeah, and then we go to London and the trenches of
Yep.
World War One. So
Yeah, but I mean
way.
it made sense for those to be
Yes, it made
more kind of
sense for the story.
grayscale, and it fit within the story, and it didn't feel as though, it didn't feel so forced.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think the coloring scheme in this film was really well done. As we mentioned, I think the characters really played well. Robin Wright in this is such a badass. She doesn't have an awful lot of screen time. I mean, she's not, you can tell from the trailers, she's not a hugely important character. She will obviously feature a lot more in the earlier part of this film, but I just thought what we did see from her and the backstory that you get from her and the Queen, it's such a cool little foundation to build this movie off of. And I really loved how they did that.
I didn't like the Themyscira stuff at all.
Really?
Pretty much, yeah. I thought it was just kind of hilarious how all these American actors are doing their best, like, Gal Gadot Iranian accent impression.
Yeah, that
like,
was...
and they also like weird Russian or something. I didn't like Robin Wright. Like, I love Robin Wright, but I didn't really like her performance so much. I think they're all hamstrung by let's all try and sound like Gal Gadot.
I didn't mind the accent. I really like the world.
You must be a strong warrior.
Yeah, look, the accent wasn't great, but I mean, it's
None of them were. They all
It didn't
sounded
take me out of the
weird,
film at all. I thought that origin story
See,
was
I
good.
wasn't in the film yet. I was sitting there waiting for this thing to start. And yeah, just the whole, the Themyscira stuff just went on and on and on.
So-
I'm like, let's get out of here.
Speaking of being taken out of this film, I do want to delve into something that wasn't done well, and this was something really disappointing, which is a lot of the special effects. So a lot of the CGI and a lot of the green screen was, at times in this film, really horrid.
Like, not the most polished thing in the DCEU.
Yeah,
There's
and I
some
mean,
shonky
in fact,
shots.
yeah,
I think it's probably the least polished thing in the DCEU.
and
It's
I mean,
one of the least
in terms of
polished,
special effects.
like tent-pole films that I've seen in a while.
and it is so annoying because, I mean, one thing that DCU has done is make stunningly beautiful films. Like they all, I mean, they do have a lack of color and you can say that, but as far as like, when you watch a Zack Snyder film, it's going to look epic. It's going to look really cool. I thought if they added story to that, how cool would that be?
Yeah, but the thing is, at the end of the day, this is a perfect example of people want characters, people want story, and if you have to take a few shortcuts with CG, is that the worst thing in the world?
There's a lot.
No.
There's a lot of this film-
I would rather have better characters and a little not so great CG than the other way around.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot.
Have both.
Both, yeah.
Yeah,
and
I'd
I think
rather
they could have
both.
done
I'd
it.
rather have both.
I think there are sections of this film where they've obviously poured a lot of money into it, which were my least favorite parts of this film. And I think if they had just kind of axed like 20 minutes of this film that took up most of their CGI budget and put it into the parts of the story that CGI was necessary and that allowed that kind of character enhancement to continue, that I think would have made this film great. But as it stands, that's why it was just good. I think that was a huge failing on this film's part.
Like, one of the problems with this film, one of the few problems with this film, because as you can tell, I really enjoyed this, is the third act. And the third act does delve into that BVS thing.
Shit.
Yep.
And you warned me about that, Benny, and it is on the money. It's the same old thing, and it doesn't look that great, and it doesn't really serve that much of a purpose.
I can't stress enough how I think this movie is better than BVS. I feel like the third act may be worse, and maybe that's just because the rest of the movie is so good that it
It's
really drops off a
disappointing.
cliff in a way. Whereas BVS is kind of just a weird low level.
We'll talk about that in spoilers.
I can't wait.
Yeah, for me, it didn't really. At the end of the day, I was so on board and that far through the film that it was really not the biggest deal. I will go ahead and say I think the front half of this film, the first half is one of the best front halves I've seen in a long time. I thought I wouldn't change a beat
For a superhero film?
for a lot of different films. I just thought it swept me off my feet, and I was like, I just was so thoroughly enjoying it.
See, I thought that some of the dialogue wasn't working for me, and especially some of the comedy beats felt a bit too
Forced?
let's try and do the Marvel thing, but not quite do it. Maybe if I'd seen it with a different audience or something, it would have worked a bit better.
I thought that the writing was, again, it wasn't great, but it was certainly kind of upper good.
I thought it was brilliant.
And there's, like I said,
it was
if they had
great.
taken some of the budget from that, third act and
put it in
injected,
screenwriting somehow.
well, the screenwriting, but also just like touching up and making the first half a little bit more polished, then I feel like there's a couple key things in this film that just let it down so much that even in the first half.
I disagree. I think the first half is brilliant, and Wonder Woman's origin story is one of the best origin stories.
So
I've
that
seen
scene
on
where
screen.
she's running as a kid, that green screen shit, that didn't take you
I'm
out
not
at all?
talking about green screen. I'm talking about
Because that was horrific.
I listen. As I said before, I thought there was some really bad CG in this. No, there's no doubt. Like that bit you're telling about was terrible. It was worse than that scene in Game of Thrones season 1 where the kid falls out of the building. But at the end of the day, it doesn't come down to that for me. It comes down to the essence of the story and the characters and how I connected with them.
Yeah, look, I feel like because we've seen what the DC is capable of in terms of visuals, it does make a difference and it is important. I mean, it is part of the film, how good a film looks. And a film can live or die on that.
I think there's a difference between like production design and execution of visual effects. Because I think the production design in this film was really good.
Yeah.
I think it looked really nice. And if a couple of crappy CG shots were in there, so be it.
We're going in circles here. You mentioned the characters just for a second there.
Yeah.
We all, I think, universally loved Wonder Woman herself.
Yep.
Steve Trevor, I guess we all liked.
Chris Pine, he was
cool,
awesome.
really cool, interesting character.
Had some great scenes with Wonder Woman. They really played off each other in a nice way that I think complemented each other.
Really cool to see a dude in a movie that's not some hyper masculine. Like he was a good guy, like not like a nice guy, but yeah, it's just a really cool example of a modern man, even though it's set in World War One.
Yeah.
it'd be cool to see more kind of male characters like that in films.
I thought the team as well that they team up with was better than anything in
Howling
Suicide
Commandos.
Squad.
Oh, yeah.
I felt more of a camaraderie between them in the short screen time they had than anything in Suicide Squad.
But again, like that's not saying much.
But I'm just saying, we got to keep it in. I'm thinking about this film a lot of ways in terms of the DC.
Yeah. I think they picked a good team size. I think that they played off each other really well.
The Howling Commandos from Captain America.
They were, but that's kind of the
multinational team of little specialized.
But we weren't kidding when we said this is essentially just Thor and Captain America.
America,
There's no doubt there it is.
Yeah.
They've taken that blueprint.
I didn't like those guys. The Native American fellow is one of the worst actors I've ever, and I hate to pick on performances, especially from someone who's clearly not an actor, but that is one of the worst performances I've ever seen.
I wasn't sure whether he was just
blockbuster film. He was just saying his lines as quickly as he could. Like people talk about like what's his face, Social Network in BVS.
Oh yeah,
as him being a terrible actor. It was a very specific performance.
Yeah.
I don't think it was bad acting though. It was just an interesting direction.
It might not, and you might not connect with it.
Yeah. I thought he was fun in that movie, for the record. But like this is, it happens so rarely that it really stood out and really fucking took me out every time he spoke. I'm like, wow, this is an actual like non-actor in a movie. And it's like,
Yeah, right.
I didn't really notice it that much.
I didn't bother me at all. Really.
I'd love to just bring out some highlight scenes and show them again.
Well, now that you've mentioned it, if I go back, that it might affect the way that I see it.
Like he's just trying to get off set.
You may very well be right. You just ruined that character for me. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that amazing character.
Yeah.
Should we get into spoilers?
Yeah, let's get into spoilers. Let's talk about.
Is there anything else you guys want to cover in the non-spoiler section?
No, I think we've made our feelings on the film pretty clear. I'd be keen to get into specifics.
Yeah, look, it's a good film. For people that are going out to see it, I highly recommend it. It's definitely it's really nice to have a superhero film that isn't Marvel. I felt it really refreshing. Not that I'm tired of seeing Marvel. I love Marvel, but this was kind of the ultimate experience for the end user, us, would be to have two different superhero universes that are both pumping out good content, and that you're engaged in both, and you get a bit of different flavor from each. I think that would be what you want.
From both sides.
We're not filming this episode because that was compromising.
Look, we're going to get at least 2 more of these DC movies. Justice League 1 and 2. And this is the best thing they've done so far. So I would recommend it. If you can handle Marvel movies, this is kind of at the level of quality of a few of the lesser ones, I would say. So
it's, as you said,
I like that's not an insult, because I love all
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is
movies.
down the bottom for you.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I don't even know how I'd compare those two to each other. So
they're very different films.
For me, Wonder Woman knocked it out of the park. I was
10 out of 10.
So impressed. Hats off to Patty Jenkins. Hats off to Gal Gadot. Hats off to Chris Pine. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I've got 3, so I'm all out of hats.
You get a hat. You get a hat. You get a hat, and that's it.
I'm really excited for the DC universe. DC. Wow, I did
one
a corner.
film, and you're on board.
I hope they can continue this course. I'm not sure if Justice League will be able to. I don't know if Zack Snyder's DNA is going to be all over that again. But listen, Wonder Woman. Well, I loved it. Let's get into some spoilers. Go see it.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to talk about is it's the third act. Everything.
Reveal?
The reveal. Everything past Ares kind of, coming out as the bad guy, which I was fine with him being the bad guy, and this kind of, plot twist.
Can I just say, before we get on to the actual, like, what happens after the twist, just the twist itself was so interesting in that I feel like it completely undercut this amazing scene. So she kills...
There's 2 twists.
Well, so I'm talking about when she kills General Ludendorff.
Yeah.
Who...
and then everyone continues fighting.
Was weird. And then everyone keeps fighting, and then Chris Pine comes in, it's like, that's just people. It's complicated, and people all have good and bad in them. And then literally in the same scene, it's suddenly like, oh no, Ares is right there.
Yeah.
It's like, there was no Ares. We were all Ares.
Yeah.
And then it's like, Ares like, no, hold on. Wait,
I am here. Don't worry. I was a little bit disappointed.
And that was a really bad twist. I don't think they set David Thewlis, whatever his name is. I'll never get his name right.
That's it.
Okay, well, there we go. They really didn't set up that twist at all.
See, I knew he was Ares.
Yeah, so did I.
Going in. I'd read it on Wikipedia.
Right.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say I picked him kind of in that first scene.
No, I saw it coming.
See, I never see shit coming. Like, I see
there's a
a
couple
car coming, driving at me. I'm like, is there a car? I don't know.
It's just when you have such an extraneous character that has no reason to be there, and there's this mystery about who someone might be.
Well, it did seem weird. Sorry, Benny just flicked a fly. It flew over his face. It was like, thinking about the film now. You sort of sat there and be like, why is David Thewlis in that role? Like, what? He's had maybe 2 scenes. 6 lines of dialogue.
It's like a Chekhov's gun. It's like you introduce David Thewlis in the first act.
Yeah.
He's going to come back in a big way in the third act because he's, it's David Thewlis.
But that twist did not work for me at all, and it was really the weakest part of the film.
Yeah,
by far.
So I guess my point was, like, from that onwards, I kind of shut off. Like, the actual twist, I was a bit disappointed, but I was like, all right, like, if this is the worst thing that happens, then fine. But it just kept getting worse from that point on.
Bad, man. It was
the dialogue between them was passable. And I say that it was just passable.
No, I mean, it was fine. It's just, that bit where they're like in the field, and I wanted to fucking stand up and leave because they're just standing in this big CGI green screen field. Yeah. It's like, just shoot them in a fucking field. Fucking CGI.
And that was the thing. Like, it was just bad. It was bad green screen in most of this. Like,
and then when you saw young Ares, David Thewlis, he's like buff and ripped to shit, and he's still got the moustache.
Yeah. That was so weird. That was so weird.
This is when it became a DC film. Like, this is where, like, oh, right, now we're back to this being...
Fortunately for me, this happened so late in the game that I could let it slide.
But see, this is the thing.
Marvel effect, where you've been so won over by the characters, you get to the end and you're like, it's a bit creaky, but I love these guys.
We'll let it pass.
But there was another twist as well, where he revealed that Wonder Woman hadn't been sculpted out of clay, but was in fact Zeus's kid.
Terrible.
What in that was different?
Nothing.
It was
means
you were
anything.
made from clay, or you
Well,
were
it was
done
that
in this
she
way.
was the god killer. Was the
Yeah,
reveal?
and
That
it's
was
like,
the twist.
what is any
right.
of that?
Okay, that makes sense.
'Cause I
But
had
it
a
still
bad
seemed
feeling-
very weak.
It
a bad
was.
feeling from the trailers where they're like, she can never know the truth about
Yeah.
what she is. It's like, why?
Oh, she.
It would have been really good for her to know that before she tried to kill Ares with this fake sword. That would have been really fucking helpful information.
so wildly unprepared. Like,
Yeah.
I've got the one weapon that'll kill you, and it doesn't work. Be like,
And it's
maybe
like, oh
someone
shit, no,
wanted
I
to
don't.
mention
It's like,
this.
oh no, maybe if someone told her she's the fucking god killer, it would have been pretty sweet.
Yeah. But like everything, like it was just a CGI mess after that.
God.
And the
I
only
reckon it
thing,
was worse than Doomsday.
well, it was because it didn't even look good as Doomsday. At least Doomsday had the budget in that section
Yeah, and
to
all
like
the
pull it
lightning
off.
was kind of the score
The
was
fire
cool.
looked bad.
The fire looked bad.
Yeah, but
He
the
like
outfit,
he just
like the CGI
Oh.
helmet, like put a helmet on him.
the only
His head
thing
was like floating around.
Yeah.
It's like-
You can see his eyes poking through. It's like, no, that's weird. That's weird.
the only thing that kept me through that
shooting
scene
laser beams at
was
each other.
essentially the fact that Chris Pine was still in it, and that whole kind of Chris Pine going and taking the plane and shooting off this guy, Captain America.
Well, hold on. A guy named Steve has to take this experimental
Yeah.
futuristic plane up into the air because it's full of this weapon that's going to be dropped on the world, so he has to destroy it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
How did they
okay.
not
was
say
like,
that
oh,
one in the second draft?
they're just straight up copying now. Cool, that's good to know.
I know. I came out of this movie. I'm like, that was almost ballsy. How
Yeah.
much of that was like straight out of Captain America?
But what I will give this movie credit for is that they didn't pussy out and get him to land in an ice field and come back later. They fucking straight up killed
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Well done, DC.
Yeah.
It actually, gave some weight to that
And
sacrifice.
Gal Gadot's reaction to that was on point, I thought.
Up until
Because those
it became a CGI mess.
When
Yeah.
She
no,
cried and then she exploded into God knows what.
when she's like she's shell shocked and she can't hear anything. She's like, "What? What are you saying? What are you talking about, Steve?" but then they flash back to that scene, and she can hear it. And she's like, "No, I heard him the whole time. I just didn't want." She was just like trying to friend zone him. He was like, "I love you." She's like, "What are you saying?" Then he explodes. She's like, "Ah, shit."
I just remember reading it, I was like, this plays well, I guess. Like it
Yeah, I did. In the moment I felt it, I'm like, "Oh,
it was
this
emotional,
is beautiful."
but there was the back of my brain was just going like, wait a minute, why did she not hear this the first? Like, what's happened
Yeah,
since
like,
then?
what's
She's like,
happening right now?
she knows how to lip read now.
One
and
of
she
her
remembers.
lesser known superpowers
Yeah.
is like delayed hearing. It's coming back to me.
Yeah, look, and this is the thing that pisses me off about this film. Yes, Gal Gadot had a great reaction after he died, and yes, it was some real sacrifice. But seconds after that, it turned into a CGI fuckfest, and that it took me out so
What were they
quick.
thinking? Doing that again?
Yeah,
Like after all the shit they've copped,
and after the
after
movie that
Man
they
of Steel,
created up
after
until then.
BVS. Can't remember how the other one ends. Oh man, that was much even worse, wasn't it? Like, why would they do it again? And it's the
Yeah.
worst one they've done, I reckon.
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't because
Like,
it wasn't
emotionally and
agonizing.
dramatically,
It
it
wasn't
worked better.
agonizing. I found all the other ones.
I
I
found
get
it
to
more
that third
agonizing
act. I get.
because- Because a good film came before it. I'm
Yeah.
like, what are they doing?
You were so close, DC.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a formality that we have to go through these days. The third act, there's very few films where I watch the third act and I'm like genuinely impressed. Very, very few. I'm struggling to think of one right now. Return of the Jedi.
Prometheus.
Yeah, look, it was so unnecessary, and I want to point something else out else as well. When she finally kills Ares, and like all these German soldiers start hugging each other, I was like, get absolutely fucked. Like that is such a slap in the
Yeah.
face of the entire message of this film. Like,
After all this
Yeah.
fucking lightning
Yeah.
exploding everywhere, and then everyone's just like sitting up, like, I was
Smiling.
behind this rock. I'm like,
hey, like, ah. And you're right, like it completely negates that whole twist, which is like we're kind of shitty, but that doesn't matter. It's what you have to fight against that, and like that's what being good is about.
Yeah.
Like that is a fucking awesome message. Nope, it actually is
I
Ares.
love it's literally like in the same breath as that scene. I was kind of like, oh, that's cool that she killed General Ludendorff, and now I've kind of felt like they'd leave and like there'd just be a new scene at least, and then it's just like, hello, I'm here, I'm Dave Thewlis, and let's get down to business. I'm like, oh no, it's the third act now.
There was a few points in the second act where I think it went, it kind of lost its course and the pacing went a little bit off. Even before that, I think they went back and forth to that village a number of times, and I thought that seemed a little bit labor intensive. Yeah, I would like to highlight something else we didn't talk about in the non-spoilers that I thought was really interesting about this film was the commentary on war, and particularly a few lines of dialogue that Chris Pine had where it was he was talking about sort of the war and weaponry and it was so interesting because he could have been talking about today. It wasn't specific to that time.
That's what's great about World War I. That's why it's a great setting, which it was not in the original comics. It was World War II. But World War I is so much more complex morally.
Yeah.
It's not, everyone versus Nazis, which is a pretty easy one to take a side on. It's very political and...
It's so fascinating. And then one of the team members sort of comments on a genocidal aspect of the Americans and Chris Pine. And there's some really interesting subtext in this film that I think they did a really good job bringing it out enough. I think you don't want to really sort of hone on it too much in this kind of like tentpole comic book blockbuster.
They teased out some themes that were really like they were complex and they didn't give you kind of
on about it, but it fit in. And Wonder Woman's character was a really good counter to a lot of those ideas, and her loss of innocence story in this film was something that really fascinated me, and I think was done the best thing that was done in this film.
And the gender dynamics as well, I thought very skillfully handled and not over the top or anything.
Yeah, even that scene where they're talking about his genitals, and that was handled. I thought that was handled really well.
He was handling it fantastically.
There was lots of handling going on. But I think that scene could have gone into schlocky, dun, 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 and the violins start playing, and it's like, oh, let's make this funny. And I don't know.
They towed a very interesting line where they were obviously introducing elements of comedy in that, but also kind of just, they didn't go too far. I thought that they really just skimmed the line there and let it just kind of move on, which I thought was really well done.
Yeah, there could have been a point where they take things too far, and I think they just hit it right on the head. Did you hit the nose on the head, as Connor likes to say? This
is something that kind of concerned me in that first act, and a lot of the interaction between Gal Gadot and Chris Pine. Part of that early on, which is completely understandable, is a lot of Chris Pine's kind of like stuttering, trying to interact with this almost alien woman, and I thought he did it really well, but I thought it was very close to the Garfield in Amazing Spider-Man, like the stuttering, like
But you love that,
yeah? That's your favorite?
No, never said it was my favorite.
That's why you like
never even said I liked
so
it. I thought it was close to that, and I was like, if this continues for too long, it's going to enter that territory, and I think they just cut it off right where they needed to. I think that's for this film, it's a lot of just like taking it right to the edge and being like, nope, this is where it needs to stop, which again makes me so pissed off that they didn't do that with the third act.
Just as an aside, Connor, you picked a side on that Spider-Man.
I did.
You picked a side and you got to live with that now.
Yeah.
That's movie MMA, by the way. Go check that shit out on our channel.
So a lot of this
I'd do so much differently if I had a chance.
A lot of this movie was a pretty cool balancing act, and I think that's never more evident than with Diana herself. And Gal's performance, it's such a brilliant tightrope walk between, kind of naive and headstrong and intelligent, but still a fish out of water.
How quickly could this have turned into, oh, that's some dumb bitch. Oh, she's so stupid. No, seriously. Internet trolls. We got internet trolls last week, and I've been talking to the boys. Yeah. Hey. How much? Imagine being at that kind of profile and getting the amount of criticism she would have gotten.
She will get.
She'll get it anyways. People are already, being fucking neckbeards.
That's what I want to say. I really want to see how the DC fanboys react to this, because now by far the biggest success in the DCEU is a woman.
Good Lord, no.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be interesting to see, because I wouldn't be surprised if this is the movie they turn on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, I almost be surprised if they didn't.
It kind of spits in the face of.
Let's
so
face
much
it, they must be
DCEU.
contrarians if they're fucking DC fans. DCEU fans, sorry.
Yeah. That was a close call.
Yeah. Anyway, we got to talk about something great in this movie, because we haven't. We've been harping on about the bad stuff.
I haven't.
Yeah, George.
You've been in denial.
No, so
Fuck you.
So the No Man's Land scene was the middle of this movie. It was the fucking standout of the whole thing.
Awesome.
Such a it's such a cool collection of scenes. Really, even when she's going over, and then in that little town. That such a good, just as an action
that
scene.
little chunk there, yeah. That was when that was the moment I was talking about earlier when I'm like, I'm looking at a hero right here,
Yeah.
and it was like thrilling,
Yeah.
and inspirational. I'm like, this is what fucking Superman should be, man, not some sad guy breaking necks.
That was, and the trench warfare is so visceral, like just so horrible. It's such a horrible place, and I think they conveyed that really well. And that whole scene was really, really well handled. The bit where she's holding her shield and the machine gun is just firing at her, like you felt the power, like you felt the intensity and the danger. I totally agree. I think it was a standout scene.
And then when she hulks out on the sniper tower, that was also cool.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that was awesome.
I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but there were parts of those scenes where the CGI just let it down a little bit. And again, it's for me, it's just the difference between a good and a great film, which was that just some of the green screen and some of the CGI took me out a little bit.
Now I'm seeing what George was talking about before, because in that scene in particular, nothing could have taken me out of it. Like a shitty fucking cartoon pterodactyl could have flown across the top. I'd be like fucking fist pumping. Because that's when like character and story and dramatization
Really
all kind of just like sing together.
100%.
And then the Hans Zimmer Junkie XL theme kicks in, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is World War One.
That theme, and I've expressed this before, that theme pissed me.
I don't dislike it.
I'm on
I
it.
don't dislike it. It's kind of cool. It's like almost iconic already, but it's like,
Look,
you notice it when it
The
comes.
theme
I think they've
itself
got
is
it.
cool. The theme itself is cool, but it never feels like it belongs. Like it's
Every-
always
every-
jarring.
I think it does.
Every time it
It's
comes
always
up,
jarring.
you're like,
Definitely
oh,
does.
here this is.
Yeah.
Whether you love it or hate it, you're like, oh, all right.
I
there
think
we
that's
go.
great.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it's the theme.
It's better than the Batman one from BVS.
Again,
It's like one note. It's like he's somehow tried to outgrim himself
Yeah.
from the
Well,
Dark
Hans
Knight.
Zimmer, he used 2 in the Chris Nolan's. Ba, ba. So now he's like, now we have to do only one note. We have to take it to the next level.
One note does describe that Batman pretty well, actually.
it's just like he took the Inception soundtrack.
We slowed it down once again.
Do you reckon he just goes into his office? He's got his little synth, and it's just these big noises of like horns. Sounds good.
When he forgets he has a deadline.
I'll put out the one note, and that will be good.
General Ludendorff was crap.
He was a villain. It wasn't. I mean,
What do you think about the henchman, the girl with
Dr.
the mask?
Poison.
She was cool.
She was interesting.
yeah. Look,
She
the
was
bad guys
freaky,
in this
man.
film were.
Very freaky.
I thought that was so
Very
silly.
generic.
They felt like I don't know. They kind of the scene where he throws like the gas grenade into the room and locks it, and then everyone, they're like, ooh,
Yeah.
they run away like Gene Hackman in Superman the movie. Ooh, we did it! Let's get out of here.
Kind of like the villains in Rocky and Bullwinkle. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
There's a cartoonish,
Yeah, that was weird. And that the misdirect with the little stuff he was sniffing to make you think he was a god,
Yeah.
but it was just like
that was.
super soldier serum or some bullshit.
And he kind of went a little bit white.
And the camera did that weird kind of focus thing on him. He was like,
And you see the way that she kind of
It's in
progressed
the
the plot.
way
She's
that
like, I found it. I've discovered it suddenly, and you're like, that doesn't gel very well, does it? Like it was one moment she didn't understand, and the next moment she did. I was like, this does not seem coherent. And this again, like this was so much of this movie was so close to being really, really excellent.
And then other parts felt a little 90s, 2000 superhero movie, like when she walks into the party with a sword sticking out of her back. and it's just like, and everyone behind her is just like, what's going on there? That's very strange. But it's cool. It's fine. And then she's like dancing with Ludendorff with the sword sticking out of her back. I'm like, this is strange.
That was a
Not
cool
choice.
scene. I thought that was probably the strongest scene that he had. Apart from,
by
like,
far.
But I mean, like, that's not saying much because he was such a generic, like, I'm a bad guy
Yeah.
type villain, and I felt the same for Dr. Poison. It wasn't, and I'm kind of okay with that. Like, I mean, if you think about it, the Red Skull in
I love
Captain
the
America.
Red Skull. I fucking love the Red Skull.
But I mean, he wasn't all that
out
different.
of one head, then 2 more shall take its place. Fuck, Hugo Weaving's so cool. I will say, and this is, I guess it's kind of unfair because it just doesn't bother me in Captain America, but it does in this. the German accents, and no one speaks a word of German in this film.
Chris Pine's
boy.
German accent was so
Are you saying that you forgot the invitation? I think that was intentional because in the next scene he was doing a much more nuanced accent.
Yeah.
But in that, I think that was meant to be like a funny bit.
But that's
how all the Germans talked in this movie. Like, why? Like,
yeah, that scene
forgot the invite
where they're talking about the armistice and they're just speaking English. This kind of bad English accent.
There was all these Germans talking to Germans in English, and again,
put out some
it's
subtitles.
a movie, and I think this movie is trying to skew a little younger than some blockbusters do. Like they didn't want to have subtitles because a lot of little kids are going to be going to see this, but it's still the DCU has set itself out to be so realistic and this is a real world with superheroes.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I would have probably forgotten that scene with him talking in German.
Yeah, I don't like picking on it, but it was
funny.
It was funny. And it just feels weird at times. And when you got these like cackling German villains.
Yeah.
Oh well.
No.
Yeah, I felt like the bad guy really was just war itself in this, which I think that they really capitalize on. I think that the speeches.
I love the bit where she's like, "Take me to the war."
Yeah,
he's like, it's kind of like it's a bit here, it's a bit there. Just like, where's the war?
Yeah,
yeah.
Did you guys like Etta Candy, the his secretary?
The secretary. Yeah,
I
thought she was really
Dawn
good.
from The Office.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I loved her. I loved it. Maybe it's because I love Dawn.
Yeah.
I was with people and I couldn't gauge if they liked it or not, and that kind of made me feel weird about it. And because I didn't dislike it, but I don't know, because when you're in a comedy and jokes aren't landing with people, it kind of makes you feel weird.
The audience was laughing.
Yeah,
that would
have worked fine for me.
I think she played it really well. I think the character itself was a cool character, and I mean, of course, they had to address that kind of inequality, and I think that's where they were able to land most of the humor and most of the kind of poignant. This is a man's world, and
I definitely enjoyed that stuff. I could feel like a lot of DC fans maybe going in there and being like, "What is this Marvel bullshit?"
Yeah,
it's really not relevant to the rest of the movie very much. God, that shot of her walking out of the clothing store with the sword and shield, though, fucking brilliant.
Yeah. How good was that?
Yeah,
I just love her showing up in the alleyway with the sword and being like, "Where do you think you're going?" I was like, "Yes, fuck yes."
It's just nice to see a character like that in the DCEU.
Yeah.
They're also brooding and boring. That's where this film was so much fun for me.
Yeah, her being all about love. That's cool, man.
That's all I want. I just want lovey-dovey bullshit.
Love, man. We're major hippies.
Yeah.
Major step in the right direction for DC. And that is to make it more like Marvel.
The last thing I'll say that I found really interesting with this film was how quickly the chain of events kind of took place in the first half. Like Chris Pine's plane comes down, and then those Germans are literally through that force field.
Yeah, they just say, "All right, I didn't expect that to happen."
And
at all.
And then that action sequence goes down. I thought that was really interesting, and I really like that action sequence. I really like the music in that sequence. I thought the music in this film was genuinely really fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
The action scenes with the Amazons were really cool.
Except that bit where she did that twirl.
Again, it's the CGI that just took me out of that. I think that it's just, I would have loved to see a BVS quality CGI and green screen applied to a movie. Again, applied just to a movie that had this kind of story.
Literally, if this film had been exactly the same, but that CG exactly the same as in that CG had been cleaned up, frame for frame the same though. Would you would have enjoyed this film significantly more or a little bit more?
Oh, it's hard to tell. I mean, it's such a hypothetical. I mean,
15% or 18%?
Yeah,
or 17.83%.
Well, you gotta forget that one.
It would still be that third act would probably still kill me.
Yeah, it's not that the CG's bad. It's just what's
going on.
He's
going on about.
Well,
the
no, it is.
No, yeah.
It's kind of like another.
Have a fucking. Don't be such a douchebag.
No, I'm just saying, like,
Connor, is it true that you hate women?
Well, that's it for the podcast,
and we mean it.
No, I'm just saying, like, look, there's many facets to films in general, and that's one of them. And I think that it's disappointing to
words,
see.
Never spoken.
Yeah. Very generic words. But I think that, for a franchise or a shared universe that has prided itself on that aspect of filmmaking so far, I hate seeing a film excel where it has been lacking, but then dropping the ball where it's been succeeding.
Yeah, no, I can understand that.
So we all like this movie.
I liked it a lot more than you guys, I can tell.
Give it a rating.
I'm gonna give this
Don't you
a.
fucking dare.
I would. Do you guys want to see the DCEU go down this specific path? Because I really feel like this is
Just
a
Marvelized.
Marvel
It's
movie,
not
yeah.
though. It's different to a Marvel film. I think it is different.
I
at the end
don't
of the
think.
day.
I think
you can
it's
say
different to a Marvel
okay,
film. It's not different
you
to
can-
two specific ones.
You can say, but I think the viewing experience of those films is still different. I think it is still in its essence. It's still got a different ideal. Still got a different story to tell, and it can be enjoyed in a slightly different way.
I think maybe, but I think relative to the rest of the DCU films, you could slot this right into Marvel, and it fits more into that camp than
That might
this
just be
one.
because it's a good film. It feels more like Marvel.
Certainly, but I don't know. I feel like tonally and structurally,
Totally, it is.
like,
It is far more Marvel than any other of the DCEUs.
well, what I'm getting at here is, and this is a weird. Maybe I'm just
riffing.
being trying to be different, but I would love to see something like BVS that works.
Yeah,
Because that is so different than what Marvel is doing. It's just that it's shit.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a good version of that, potentially. I don't know. Maybe, hopefully Justice League is good.
yeah. Look, like I said, I'd love to have two separate superhero
That
universes
feel different.
that feel different, that are tonally different, but that are both good. And I think that DC has the ability to make a good film, and it doesn't have to be Marvelized. I would like to see a more DC-like film, but that one that just took the care in its storytelling that Wonder Woman took. I don't think that this is a good movie because it's like Marvel in the sense of the tone and the feel. I think it's a good movie because they just spent a little bit more time trying to,
Making the
create
character
likable
work.
characters.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what DC needs, and I think that's what this
DC
movie
needs
did
more
well.
jokes. No, you
Better
see, 'cause
writing.
I guess what I'm thinking of is that original Man of Steel trailer. Like a functioning universe of that level. Man, that trailer. God damn it. So
I'd love to see
fucking
that.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, we'll see where the DCEU
Very
heads now
soon.
with this success of Wonder Woman, because this could really change their game plan. We've seen and we've talked about it in abundance. They are not afraid to change the schedule coming up.
They're afraid
willy
not to.
fucking nilly.
But Justice League is already in the can, so there's
Of
nothing
course.
they can do about that one.
There's nothing they can do about that.
It's really the Batman film that we'll be looking out for. It's, kind of Superman 2.
Wonder Woman 2.
Yeah, those are the
all
kind of
but
films that might
guaranteed
be
now.
able to really kind of change
What do
the
you think?
direction.
Do you want to see a Wonder Woman film sequel now after BVS, or do you want to see it in the intervening time, perhaps like a World War II movie or something?
Ooh.
Because we don't really get a sense of this, why she retreated from the world from this film.
Yeah, I'd like to see it go back to a period setting.
She's like retired in,
I really
in
like
BVS when it comes to, and she doesn't feel the same,
Yeah.
which is a shame. I hope they go back to this version of her because she's so much fun and
I think
so light.
that might be too much of an easy target to just kind of take it back to the period that worked.
But I feel like there's more story we could tell with her.
Oh, certainly,
before we get
certainly
to
there
BVS.
is. But I think just with the direction that the DC universe is going in, we're going to have to kind of get a little bit more kind of inclusive with the stories.
Gotta start
And-
moving forward.
Well, yeah, and I think that with the success of this one, this might be the way to do it. So, in terms of what I'd like to see, kind of on a larger scale, I think that this should be after BVS. But I think it should just bring some of what it had in the first one to this universe, and really trying to force this in that kind of direction. In